how can I generate more leads, and what systems and processes do I need in place in order to effectively manage those leads? These are the topics we're going to be covering today with Amanda and David Fornelli, who are going to be joining us soon. I am so excited to bring them on. I originally met them at the Invested conference earlier this year where they talked about lead generation, and it completely blew my mind at the amount of details they put into their systems and processes and how they attract their leads. It's incredible, and I'm so happy and excited to bring them on. Oh, hello. Yesy, McKenna, thank you all for joining. Make sure if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. You want to take advantage of Amanda and David's time. They are absolutely incredible. Earlier, I was just saying at Invested this year, they were talking about how they compared like the offers that got accepted and the offers that didn't, and to make sure that the ratio that they were getting, the offers were accepted, weren't too different than the ones that weren't. And that was one of the processes they used to track their leads, and that's just one thing we're going to be covering today. So I'm so excited. Let's see here. I'm going to invite them on. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, I sent the request. Just waiting here. Hello, hello. All right. McKenna, how are you? I see you are rocking on Instagram. Oh, there they are. Hello. Okay. Amanda, I just sent you the request, so all you have to do is accept it, and it should add you on. Oh, it says, that's weird. It says unable. Go ahead and try clicking the camera button at the bottom of the screen with the plus sign in it. Let me know if that works. There we go. Okay. There we are. Hello.
Hello. Hey, what's up?
Welcome. I'm so excited to have you guys on.
Thank you. We're trying to squeeze into a small window, so let us know if it's okay for you. But yeah, we gotta get tight.
Luckily, we love each other, so it's okay.
No, it's perfect. You guys are great. It just shows how close you are.
Yep. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm just so excited to have you guys on. I was just telling them how we originally met at the Invested conference, and you guys blew my mind with your lead generation and everything you spoke on there, and I was just like, I have to have you guys on. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us on. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's an honor. Thank you so much.
You had Alex Yee on last week, right?
Yeah, she gave us a tour of her house up by Yosemite. It was really incredible. She dropped a ton of knowledge on accessibility friendly vacation homes. So definitely one to rewatch. But she's on fire.
Yes, I love Alex. She's so amazing. She's so nice too. She's just such a good person. So shout out to you, Alex.
She absolutely is. She's such a genuine person. Do you guys want to start off by introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about how you guys got started and where you are today?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
You want me to get started? I'll kick this off.
Yeah.
My name is Amanda Fornelli. This is my amazing husband and business partner, DJ Fornelli. We are based out of Northeast Los Angeles. We have been investing since like late 2019, early 2020. We invest in a few different strategies and markets, but primarily in Southern California. We do fix and flip. We own and operate some short-term rentals. And we also own and operate a 10-key boutique hotel, and also we have some long-term rentals as well. So a combination of things. We have been business partners for the last 5 years, and we kind of tackle this together also with our third business partner, which is my brother Oscar. Did I miss anything?
No, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So you guys do everything. What you're saying?
Little
Yeah, a
bit
little
of
bit of everything. Yeah, it's so funny. We started off in fix and flip, like she mentioned, and then that kind of led us to short-term rentals because we were fixing and flipping short-term rentals, and then that led us to the world of hospitality, which led us to the hotel. So it was kind of a natural progression.
I love it. Very, very organic is what I've been hearing people say.
Yeah,
Very natural.
yeah,
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 absolutely.
And I love that you guys were able to come on too because I feel like this is one of the hottest topics right now. I go to a lot of real estate investor meetups and conferences, and one of the things that always comes up in conversation is how do I get more leads? And not only that, but how do you manage them? And what systems and process do you need in place? So I love that. We're going to get into like the workshop you guys are offering too, because that is, I think, something that so many investors need right now. So I love that you guys have just kind of naturally gone and created this, like you saw a need and then you went and created something that's going to help a lot of investors. So we'll get into that too. But can you explain a little bit about how you guys generate more leads?
yeah. That's a great question. You're right. I feel like that's one of the most asked about topics, right? Like, how do you find leads and how do you fund them are the two biggest things, other than like who's your general contractor. So leads, man, lead generation, it can be a full-time job, especially for us individuals who do it at scale. And so I was a person who was tasked with handling the lead generation. And so really the best analogy that I like to give people is if you want to catch a fish, you throw your fishing line in the water and you should be able to catch a fish. If you want to catch more fish, throw more fishing lines in the water. And with the more lures you have in the water, then the more fish you should be able to catch. And so I think people often forget that and they get so hyper focused on one method of lead generation, which I think there are some pros and cons to that. So the first part being the MLS. I think the MLS is the best place to start for lead generation because it's free. It doesn't cost anything. And it's highly competitive, but it's available to everyone. And there's a ton of properties. There's a ton of inventory available on the MLS. So that's definitely the first place to start with lead generation. The next is wholesalers. Wholesalers, they're the true masters of lead generation because that's what they do. They don't flip the properties, they don't keep them, they're not operating short-term rentals. They're strictly out there looking for leads. So networking with wholesalers is a great place to start. That's a great way to have inbound leads coming through. And Miranda, one thing that I want to distinguish before we continue to go on is the difference between inbound leads and outbound lead generation. Inbound lead generation is something like if you network with an investor-friendly realtor and then they add you to their query and then now emails come to you. Or if you network with a wholesaler and you get added to their email list, now leads are coming to you, right? That's inbound lead generation.
Okay.
Something like the MLS campaign is outbound lead generation, where I'm going out and actively seeking for leads. So it's really just a combination of those two things, making sure we're running inbound lead generation campaigns and outbound lead generation campaigns at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, the last thing I want to touch on is consistency. I think we learned the hard way that if you stop marketing for leads, it's going to slow down your whole business because by the time you're ready to get another property, you have to start the horse all over again. So consistency, even when you don't think you want a new property, just have your marketing running, and there's always ways to monetize off that lead if you don't want to take it on yourself.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I love that. Fire tip right there. You guys just dropped so many fire tips. Okay, so going back, so I love that you touched on the inbound and outbound because I feel like when people see leads, people have different interpretations of what a lead means.
Oh.
So on top of what inbound and outbound mean, do you guys also, exactly do you consider a lead, and are there different tiers like cold, hot, or do you guys only go by inbound and outbound?
Yeah, so a lead is a potential deal that comes across your desk, right? I think people sometimes use the word lead and deal interchangeably, where they're like, oh, I have this great deal. But in my opinion, something's not a deal until you actually close on it or you get it under contract. So a lead is a good potential opportunity that comes across your desk. And that can be, from anything really, from wholesalers, pay-per-click, like we talked about, running ads. There's so many different ways of generating leads. So we do have a couple of different tier scales that we follow. We like to use hot lead, dead lead, and then quality lead or qualified lead. A hot lead is, let's say you get a lead and it's a fixer-upper, and you know, and the price is great, and you know this thing is going to have multiple offers right away. So you have to act with a lot of urgency. That's what we like to consider something like a hot lead. A qualified lead is maybe something from the MLS where you know that there's a bunch of retail buyers looking at it in addition to investors. You know that you have 2 weeks to make an offer and you need to do some diligence to get the property condition, seller motivation, what the price is going to be, right? So that's a qualified lead, or the qualifying lead process. And then we don't actually consider a lead dead until the property has been sold. So if we're making an offer on a property, and let's say we find it to the MLS, and we don't get our offer accepted, but someone else does get their offer accepted, we'll still follow up with that agent or that individual who's selling the home until that lead is closed, because we don't consider it dead until that lead is actually closed. And then that's pretty much it. I mean,
Yeah, I just to touch a little more on qualified leads, because let's say you get 100 leads in the door, that's great. But if only 85, so if only 15 of them, or the other if only 50 of them are qualified leads that meet your buy box, then your lead flow is not as great as you think it is. So it's really important to generate the right type of leads. And then anything that doesn't fit your buy box, that doesn't qualify, maybe you can find other ways to monetize off of it. But that's why understanding the quality of your leads is also going to be really important, because you can't just bring in leads for the sake of leads. They have to be qualified. They have to fit your business model, your buy box. They have to fit your price point, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just something that we want to touch on, because a lot of people miss the qualification process of the leads part, and that's where you can either get like too distracted in too many markets or investment strategies, or like you don't hit your volume. So it's really important to qualify the lead as well. That's all.
Okay. Yeah. Is there a certain like way or something that you do that you can use to filter through the leads, or to kind of pinpoint leads that are more in your buy box, or is it more just you're throwing out a net and then you sort through the fish once it comes in?
Yeah.
Good.
You want me to take that one? When like it's really, really important to have a buy box. Like that is number one. Before anyone markets for any leads, we always say create a buy box, because otherwise you don't know what you're marketing for. You don't know what kind of leads you're trying to generate. So get together as a business if you have multiple partners and figure out what is your buy box. So what's example of a buy box?
Right, yeah. So right now our buy box is like a single family home for house flipping specifically. It's a single family home within the Los Angeles area that's under $1 million purchase price, around 1,500 square feet, in that 3-bed, 2-bath range. So that's our buy box. If someone sends me a lead for a 150 unit apartment complex in Chicago, Illinois, for example, right? Like that's not within my buy box. So even though that is a potential deal that's coming across our desk, I'm not considering that a lead because it doesn't fit within our buy box.
Correct. Yeah, and there's a further qualification process when you actually pick up the phone and talk to the agent or the seller. You could find that it looks like a qualified lead, but then you pick up the phone and maybe it's an occupied property that they can't deliver vacant. I don't want that property for a fix and flip, right? So there's further qualification when you start to bring in things like your agent or your seller intake sheet or your script.
Yeah.
Okay. And how much time do you guys spend on qualified leads versus leads that don't fit your buy box, but that you could potentially monetize through like wholesaling?
So we're not too focused on wholesaling now. Rather, what we'd rather do is, if a lead doesn't necessarily fit our buy box, but it's still a good lead that I know a fellow investor would take a look at, rather than trying to wholesale it and pump it out to a list and all this other things, I'll just refer it out to a couple of key investors that I know can take it down, and then collect something like a finder's fee rather than going through like a true wholesale process. So maybe the finder's fee is not as big as an assignment fee, but it's still being able to monetize off a lead that we have no business taking on. So really it depends. How much time we spend depends on how heavy our foot is on the gas pedal, so to speak. So if we're being really aggressive and we're trying to take on one property a month, then I'm going to spend a pretty significant amount of time, or my VAs will spend a pretty significant amount of time searching for leads, anywhere from, sometimes it ranges from maybe 30 minutes a day on up to 2 hours a day, really. And again, that really just depends on how aggressive we're being and the amount of leads we want to take on.
And the way that our workflow is set up is when we have a lead come in, we either qualify it or we disqualify it. If we disqualify it for whatever reason, we just move it into our dead leads pile because it doesn't fit our strategy. If we qualify it, what this says is internally we are okay with spending additional time, resources, money to analyze this deal. And this question comes up a lot. We talked about it at Invested. If you're spending 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours analyzing a deal, make an offer every single time because you are spending so much time on that. Even if it's an offer that may seem low, make it anyway because you spent time on it. You will be surprised sometimes at how many times they'll come back and like have an interest in your offer when you thought it was too low or you didn't really have a really great connection with the agent. So always make the offer if you're spending time analyzing. So if we qualify the lead, we're going to run it through our deal analysis process and we're going to make the offer no matter what.
I love that. It's so true because I remember I was analyzing so many deals and spending so much time and not even putting in an offer. And I'm just like, how do people have time for this?
Yeah.
So that makes a lot more sense.
And even if your number is lower, that's a chance for you to get more information from either the agent or the seller, right? So out here in Los Angeles, if someone's trying to sell a fixer for 800,000 and our number, our ARV or our purchase price comes up to, maybe it's like 679, right? We can go back to the agent and say, hey, I know you guys are looking in the 800,000 range. Our offer number has a 6 in front of it. Like, what's going on here? Like, why are we so far off? What is it? Can you tell me a little bit more about the property? Am I missing something? So it's an opportunity to dig for more information, which is only going to help us in our evaluation.
Yeah, this is a misconception with a lot of newer investors. They say like numbers don't work, the numbers don't work. And that's because they're trying to meet the asking price. And we all know a lot of agents are unfortunately not sophisticated enough to know the true value of the property. Also, sellers need to be educated. So they may ask whatever they want. But the reality is, in order for them to get like a number that works, in order for them to get an offer accepted, like it has to be a number that works for the buyer. And so ignore what the asking price is. Of course, that's your starting point, but you're going to gather some intel from your qualification process on the phone. And one of those things you're asking about is a price if they're flexible, and you're going to make an offer based on what your analysis tells you, not what their asking price is. So people are asking, how are you making these deals work? We're offering at what makes sense for us. And our job is to educate the seller or the agent on why we offer that price. And we actually just posted about this. One thing that we do is sometimes we even give them a copy of the scope of work because they don't know the condition of the property. Like, hey, I have to put 200,000 into this property. This is why our offer has a 6 in front of it. So it's our job to educate them as much as possible.
Yeah, that is so true. We was just on a call with Brittany and the coaching team, and this guy was saying he's about 4,000 rehab, but it's probably more about 20,000. It's like they don't understand, the difference and how much money actually goes into rehabbing it. So I love that scope of work idea. And now, okay, so you have your buy box, and when you're going out and you're doing these different lead methods, have you guys noticed any like trend that maybe Facebook gives you more fix and flip, or like, MLS gives you more like midterm rentals? Is there any like pattern or trend that you see with getting more leads that fit your buy box from certain methods?
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't seen any particular trends like that yet. And, full transparency, we don't have a massive marketing budget, right? Like there are some investors that are spending $25,000 a month on lead generation marketing, $30,000 a month on lead generation marketing. We're a small family team like most investors are, right? I heard a stat from Kent Clothier the other day where he said 94% of real estate investors are like your mom and pop folks. 5% are trying to scale and 1% is at the top. So we don't have this massive budget to be able to spend $20,000, $25,000 and test and track that method. We're big fans of leveraging as many free resources as we possibly can. So in general, the MLS can be great for either fixers or turnkey properties. And if you're looking at turnkey properties like short-term rentals or long-term rental, then definitely the MLS would be the way to go. Wholesalers tend to find distressed properties, properties that don't qualify for traditional financing, which is why they're not on the MLS. So wholesalers are great if you're looking for a BRRRR deal or a fix and flip or something like that. I have run Facebook ads in the past, but this was like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and we didn't get any leads, at least good quality leads coming from the Facebook ads, because I don't think I was doing enough volume. I was trying to spend maybe like $200-300 a week, which is not very much, given that like I'm spending a lot of money on a lot of different methods. Direct mail can be really good if you have the budget for whatever strategy you want. So I know folks that send direct mailers who are short-term rental co-hosts, and they're looking to gain more co-host clients, so they send direct mail. I know flippers that send out direct mail. Direct mail can be very good so long as you're targeting the right list, and that's what really depends. What it depends on is what list are you targeting. Are you looking at pre-foreclosures? Are you looking at tired landlords? Are you looking at probate, right? So direct mail, you can get a little bit more hyper-specific like that. But in general, MLS is great for retail, turnkey stuff, fix and flip. Wholesalers, great for fix and flip. And direct mail can be good for whatever strategy you want.
I think where you may see another trend too is where certain inbound marketing works better in certain markets. So like direct mail worked really well for us in a small market like Joshua Tree. It's not something that we're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars on in the city of Los Angeles. So there's also trends when it comes to the market that you're in as well, and where you're able to get those different types of investments. Right?
Yeah, that's a great point. For a smaller market like Joshua Tree, there's 8,000 full-time residents in Joshua Tree. Handwritten letters work fantastic because it's a more personal approach. But if you're sending a handwritten letter to very sophisticated sellers in Los Angeles, they're going to throw it away and be like, is someone trying to scam me? Like, what's going on here?
And so, okay, so the ones you've listed, so it sounds like you guys have about four different methods that you're actively using right now.
Yeah, I got this from my mentor, Marina Hauser, my marketing mentor. She recommends 3 to 5 marketing campaigns at any given time. And keep in mind, Miranda, and for the folks that are watching this, just because you go from one campaign to another doesn't mean that first one should stop. And Amanda kind of touched on this in the very beginning. They should get built on like a pyramid. So I always recommend people start with the MLS, and you put your systems and processes in place to make sure you're looking at 10, 20, 30 deals a week on the MLS, whatever fits your buy box. Then you actively reach out to wholesalers. So now you have your MLS campaign running, but now you have wholesalers sending you deals also. So that's 2 marketing campaigns. Then you're actively networking with agents, and they'll put you on your agent query. So they'll send you emails too. So now I have a 3rd one. So really it's best when you're able to stack them. And then after that, the next best thing is to test and track to see what works, because we can't improve anything unless we're tracking it. So we need to see how many leads are coming in, how many quality leads are coming in, and that will let us know where to spend our time, money, and effort in what lead generation campaigns are being the most fruitful.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention that sometimes people are marketing for leads and they don't realize it. We asked a friend, hey, how are you getting your deals? He's like, I'm not doing any marketing. I said, so how do you get your deals? Oh, a wholesaler sends it to me. Oh, and agents feed me deals. I'm like, that's marketing. That is a marketing campaign. If you're building and nurturing relationships with agents who are sending you deals, that's a marketing campaign. If you're on an email list from 5 wholesalers, that's a marketing campaign. So even though it's more inbound and not outbound, and you're not spending money, it doesn't mean that it's not a marketing campaign. And if it's working for you, nurture that more, pump more time and resources into that campaign.
Yeah, totally. And then once you do that, like I mentioned, the testing and tracking is crucial, because that's going to see what's going to be the most fruitful. Then you're able to reverse engineer. How many leads do I need in order to take down a deal? And that's why testing and tracking is so crucial. Understanding KPIs is so crucial. The key performance indicators, right? What's my conversion ratio? What's my return on investment for these marketing campaigns? What's my cost per lead? What's my cost per deal, right? These are the 4 most important metrics we need. And then we can reverse engineer to say, hey, if we want 1 property a month, then we need a minimum of 200 leads coming through our door to take down 1 property a month.
Wow. And you guys track that for each method?
Yeah. Yeah, each marketing campaign, each lead generation campaign, we have a lot of trackers. Like it's kind of crazy. We have a tracker for everything, but while being organized, it helps out a lot.
What? Okay, so all right, because that's a lot, which is great. But so you get a lead in, and then you say it's an inbound lead, and it qualifies with your buy box, but not necessarily ready to close on it now, or maybe their seller's not ready. How often would you follow up with that lead?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we like to think of it like this. Amanda put it so brilliantly. The average escrow time is 30 to 45 days, right? So if the lead that we made an offer on doesn't get accepted and another offer is accepted on that property, we like to follow up every 2-ish weeks within that 30 to 45-day period because it may fall out of escrow during that time. So that 2-week cadence is a pretty good cadence we found for the follow-up period.
Yeah, and for fix and flip, it's typically a faster close. Sometimes it's like less than 30 days, sometimes 21 days. So yeah, you just have to figure out like just think think about when another possible investor could take contingencies off, right? That could be in the first week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to think about those things when you're deciding on the follow-up, and then we take it a step further and we automate our follow-up through our CRM. So our system knows to automatically send in an email to that agent 1 week after and 3 weeks after, for example, without even us thinking about it or doing anything. So it's all automated so that we can reduce all the busy work that we don't need to be doing.
That's incredible. And what CRM do you guys use?
We use Velocity CRM, so it's very similar. It's basically Go High Level, which is a very popular CRM, but it's tailored specifically towards real estate investors.
Okay.
Hey, Miranda.
And is that?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just gonna ask, have you guys always used that, or did you ever try any other CRMs, or why that one?
Yeah, it's so funny. When we first started about 4 or 5 years ago, we used one called RealFlow because that's what was recommended to us at the time. And man, like we were paying for it for 2 years and then really didn't use it at all. It's just something that like, oh, we need a CRM. So we had it and we were paying for it and we never used it. And we've gone through a couple of others since. And CRMs are, man, they're so interesting. There's a different CRM for everything, right? There's no one size fits all CRM. It's just what CRM is best for you and your business. And so Go High Level is extremely customizable. And at this moment in time, we find that Velocity works perfect for what we want to do, which is really automate our pipelines, automate lead generation as much as possible. And that includes email marketing as well. So email marketing is another lead generation campaign that we set up. I spent a couple of hours setting up a lot of our marketing emails, and then after that, an email gets sent out every week or every time someone gets on our list or something like that.
Okay. And then that lead comes in, and then it goes to your CRM. Who's the first one to touch it? Is it your VA or you?
Typically, our VA is the first person who will actually input the lead into the CRM. And then after that, it goes to a qualification process. So in the past, we've hired acquisitions managers to manage that process. Right now, we're kind of toning it down a little bit. We're scaling back a little bit more. So that's us who's in charge of the qualification process.
Okay. And then from there, it stays in the CRM or goes to a different area when it's qualified but not necessarily closed on?
The way we set it up is the lead stays in our CRM and in our pipeline process until we close on the acquisition. At that point, we decide to take it offline to a different project management or task manager called Basecamp. You can use Asana, you can use Trello. There are many different task managers, but for something more detailed like that, we actually take. Actually, sorry, I misspoke. We actually start to track it. We keep it in the CRM until it closes, but we also start to track in our project management task tracker when it opens escrow, because there's a lot of things we need to complete. So we'll kind of run that in parallel. And then once it closes, it stays in the closed stage in the pipeline in the CRM. And then everything kind of goes offline from there into our other tools.
Okay. And so say investors are getting, they're doing the, 5 different methods, they're getting all these leads in. Where do they start with starting to build these systems and processes?
Yeah, the best way to start is we like to say anything repeatable is a system, right? And so that system should be documented. And the best place to start is, let's say you're starting with MLS, right? We like to leverage Loom a lot, LOOM.com. So if we do anything that's repeatable, whether it's within the acquisition side or me on the operations or lead generation side, we'll record a Loom video doing that. And Loom is amazing because Loom gives you the transcription for that video, the text basically of all that video. That could be the SOP on its own, but now we've started taking it a step further and we leverage ChatGPT. So we'll take the transcription from the Loom video, copy it into ChatGPT, and we tell ChatGPT to create an SOP for it based on these parameters. And then we just literally review everything ChatGPT says, copy and paste it, and now we have an additional SOP for our SOP directory. So the other day, Miranda, we were doing an exercise with some folks in our workshop group, and I was able to create an SOP in like 5 minutes, and everybody was blown away because we tend to think that these are things that we put off, right? They're extremely important but not urgent activities that we tend to leave to the very end, which means most of us don't do them. And I wanted to show folks like it doesn't take a lot of time to document these systems and processes. So again, just remember, anything that's repeatable can become an SOP, and leverage tools to help you create those SOPs.
Hey Miranda, can I do a quick pause? It's asking if we can share this video with others. If I click share video, it won't take us out of our view, right? I just want to share it with our audience. Do you know if that would mess up our recording here?
Share. I don't know if I've been.
Yeah.
I
just in case I won't. But yeah, thank you. I just wanted to check.
Because it should automatically be on your guys's as well.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
I'm not sure what the share video is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to Google that.
All good. Let's keep rolling then.
Yeah, all good.
And so, okay, so you create your SOPs, Loom, video subscription, ChatGPT, create the SOP, and then you give that SOP potentially to like a VA to take over, or just anyone on your team to be able to, because I guess the point of the SOPs too is eventually to be able to have someone else take over that responsibility, right?
Exactly. It's to have people plug and play. And we put every SOP in an SOP directory for that specific department, whether it's the acquisitions department or the lead generation department or a short-term rental department. So we have a directory of all of our short-term rental SOPs, a directory of the acquisitions SOPs, just so everything stays organized. And then the directory has more information, like who's the owner of the SOP. So just in case we hire a VA and the VA has questions, the VA now knows who to go to for that specific SOP. We have a nice kind of like a summary of what that SOP is about. We have a link to the actual text transcription. We have a link to the Loom video in addition to the actual SOP. And the whole goal is to cut down the amount of questions that our hires are asking us, and so that they have all the information they need to be successful in their role.
Well, one more thing too. By the way, thank you. Yes, she's responding to my question about the share IG. I appreciate that. But one more thing, it's not just important for outsourcing. It's important to keep yourself accountable and consistent, because you're running multiple processes all the time. You got to make sure you're consistent with your process, even if you own that task.
Right.
So you can go back to me like, okay, what was my decision point here? How do I analyze this part? I go back to my SOP and I'm just making sure that I'm as consistent as possible. So it's for your own accountability as well, and then eventually so you can train your hires.
I love that. And okay, so what do you feel like is like the biggest challenge you guys are facing right now?
Oof, man, the biggest challenge we're facing right now happens, what?
Oh, go ahead. That's a good question.
Yeah, the market is such a weird market. I don't know anybody who's still like, my market is easy, my market is great. Every market is so different. But the biggest challenge we're facing right now is the market is drastically different from when it was a year ago when we underwrote a lot of our properties. And so now properties are sitting on the market a little bit longer than we had planned.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest challenge that comes to mind right now personally.
Okay. What is a challenge that you guys see like newer investors making when they're starting to build their SOPs or their systems and processes in lead gen?
Oh,
or like,
man, I have an answer. What do you think your answer is?
Go for it.
My answer is not time blocking. I love sport analogies. I don't know why sport analogies in real estate investing, they go hand in hand, right? So if you played sports, even in elementary school, high school, college, or whatever, you would have a scheduled practice, and those scheduled practices would be very consistent and would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday after school from 3:30 to 5:30 or something like that. The biggest mistake I see newer investors make is not treating it serious enough to be consistent. So people have a W-2 and we have busy lives and we have to be healthy and we have to make lunch and cook and go to the grocery store and all this stuff, right? So our schedule can get away from us really quick. So by not time blocking and by not setting that time on a specific day and sticking to that, things can become very overwhelming and we can find ourselves underwater very quickly. And so that's why we're so big on organization, on systems, on processes, because that's going to help us stay successful in the long run.
I think one of the other things that we see most commonly is they just don't do it. It sounds simple, but what happens is as you scale your REI business, you're going to be busier and busier and busier putting out fires. And until you spend time working on those very important but not urgent items like creating SOPs, structure or processes, pipelines in your CRM, email marketing, then you're going to be just spending more time putting out fires. So the biggest mistake we see is they just don't set aside time to put these SOPs in writing, and it's a lot of work, right? But the idea is that you put in the time now, even if it's just 30 minutes a day, so that in a year from now you're in a much different place, and that can buy back some of your time and prevent more fires. Yep. Or putting out fires all day long. That's really it, is a lot of people just don't do it. They say they will, but they don't.
So now, Miranda, for our short-term rental portfolio, I have 80 different SOPs that I built out. And that didn't happen overnight. And sometimes people see that and they get discouraged because they're like, oh my God, I have to create 80 SOPs. And it's like, no, you don't have to create 80. You have to create one, and then you create a next one. And if you're consistent over time, that's how you end up with 80 SOPs. Like, people ask me before, like, what's the secret sauce? Like, what's the list? What's that? And I always tell them, there's no secret. The only thing you have to do is just be consistent. That's it. You have to stick with boring things. You have to do them. You have to get good at them. You have to refine them. And eventually you may have some success.
I love that. Mic drop. No. That's incredible. And yeah, wow, 80 SOPs. That is definitely the goal right there. Yeah. And I know you guys said you have different, not columns, but you guys have different, what's it called? Like different areas that you keep different SOPs under different topics. Do you guys do that in your CRM, or do you organize all your SOPs in a different area?
Department. So they go by department. So for example, he's marketing and lead generation. He has his SOPs there for his department. I do it for mine. But we keep them in like a Google sheet. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. The CRM, it's possible maybe, but we actually have everything in a Google sheet where we link. You have to, it's the best thing to do is have a master directory like he alluded to earlier, because you want to have a centralized location to search something easily. You don't want to have to search through, 80 SOPs and have everything hyperlinked. We have a blueprint that we created where we track departments, we track acquisition systems, marketing campaigns, and we track our master SOPs.
Yeah, and these all talk to each other, right? Like, we have Google Drive is essentially the basis of our organization. The CRM is the basis of like our leads and managing the client relation and all that good stuff, right? We have Basecamp, which is our task manager. They all talk to each other. So we have Google Drive links within our CRM and within Basecamp so that we can quickly access these things. One of my favorite quotes, and I got this from my mentor, she told me to read Gary Keller's book, The One Thing. And Gary Keller says the key to tipping the time-money ratio in your favor is leverage. Leveraging people, systems, and tools. And so that's why systems and tools are just such a huge reoccurring theme in our business, because that's what the successful people do. I'm just trying to emulate the successful real estate investors that have come before me. And by narrowing the exact systems and tools you need, it just makes us a whole lot more efficient.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I see the way you nurture your systems and processes is through consistency, because that is how you build it. Now, what is the way you guys nurture your leads when they come in?
Yeah, it really depends on the type of lead that comes in. But the best way is through our CRM and then managing it with automations as much as possible. So with the MLS pipeline, for example, we have automations built out so that we can, an email will go back out to the agent every week or every 2 weeks, depending
Mhm.
on what stage that lead is in particular. And it's the same thing with a direct to seller lead. So if I'm launching a direct mail campaign, everything is organized within our CRM. I know to follow up with that seller with a phone call because it's a little bit more of a personal approach if I'm dealing direct to seller than I am with an agent, where an email is perfectly fine for really busy agents. I
Mhm.
also recently started co-hosting other people's properties, and so co-hosting is a little bit more of that personal touch because I need to get an owner to trust me enough in order to co-host their property.
Right.
So for that, I'll built out a reminder within our CRM for me to actually give the potential owner or my potential co-host client a phone call because I think that's just a little bit more personal. So I would encourage your listeners to think, what is the what's the best approach to get to that potential client? Again, with agents, they're really busy. An email or text message is just fine. With something like a seller, if it's an older woman who's looking to sell a property that she's had for 60 years, an email or text message is not going to cut it.
Mhm.
You should call that lady, say, hey, ma'am, how's your day going? Is there anything I can do for you? And just really try to be a solutions provider for her.
I love that. And when you guys are starting with nurturing these leads, I know you said, say it's someone you want to call because you want to be more personal. Do you start off with like an opening script and then get to a point in that script where like, okay, it's time to switch to the call, or do you just immediately call them and just start with introductions over the
At
phone?
first, I think it's super important to have a script because otherwise the conversation can just go awry. So
Mhm.
I always encourage people to start with the script. And then once you master the script, you kind of know the categories on that script that you need to hit.
Mhm.
And so once you feel comfortable enough, I encourage people to ditch the script. But I think in the very beginning, it's super, super important just to keep us organized. And that script, Miranda, matches with the information fields within our CRM. So now we really don't even need a script anymore because when I'm on a call or if my VA is on a call, we have our CRM open and we're taking notes right then and there within the CRM so that I can take a look at it after. Or if we have an acquisitions manager, she can log into the CRM and see all the notes and she can be chimed into everything that has happened.
Yeah, we were trained to think that every conversation we have should have a plan, and that plan means having a script. And that, for example, like what he said, we touch on three major things. And anytime we talk to a seller or an agent, and that's property condition, seller's motivation, and the price. And we have a full script for it. And eventually, you kind of make it your own. But if this audience is interested in a copy of our agent intake script and sheet, we're happy to share it. Miranda, maybe you can post that with the recording afterward, but we're happy to share that with the audience if you want a copy of it.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's your script with real estate agents?
Yes,
Wow.
agent intake script. Yep.
That's going to be really helpful because some real estate agents out there are a little intimidating.
Yeah.
At
They
least for
can
someone
be.
beginning.
Yeah, they
Totally.
can
They
be.
can
Yeah.
be. They can be, definitely. I
Like some
think
of the
even before.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead
I
after
was
you.
just gonna say some of the conversations I've had with real estate agents, I'm like, I'll get off the phone and I'm like, do they want to sell the
Right,
house? Because they're
All
just
the
like
time,
right,
so
especially in
just
Los
like
Angeles. Oh no,
right.
they're terrible salespeople, which is very ironic. But we just find that more and more agents don't want to be on the phone, which is counterintuitive because that's their only job is to get on the phone and sell a house. So it's hard, but it's you start to finesse that part of it is navigate or like dealing with difficult agents, but that at least the script gives you a plan so that no matter who you're dealing with, you can touch on the key items and get what you need out of the conversation.
Yeah, one thing I started doing, Miranda, if I'm calling agents, is just asking them, like, hey, I'd like to ask you some questions about the property condition. It might take about 5 or 10 minutes. Do you have time for that? Because I was finding the same thing as you. I'm like, do you even want to sell this house? Or are you just trying to get me off of the phone? So I think the only thing I would kind of go back and add is before we get into those three things is that rapport building, right? And
Mhm.
whatever that looks like for you. Whether it's, hey, do you have 5 minutes to answer my question? Or hey, it's a great day today. How's the weather? Whatever, right? Just to kind of ease into that. Some folks are just like, I have 2 minutes, go ahead, shoot. And then I'm like, okay, great. What's the property condition? What's the motivation? What's the price?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I'm excited to take a look at that script. And how would you nurture leads with, say, like wholesalers or, I mean, we already went on real estate agents, but yeah, I guess like wholesalers and just people in general. Do you follow up with every once in a while, or is it just about when they reach out to you, they know you're going to close? Like, how do you kind of build that rapport?
Yeah. One of the things that I got from my mentor, well, there's so many things. Marina Hauser, she's fantastic. She uses this particular phrase. And I've heard different people say it different ways, but with wholesalers specifically, she tells me to tell them, I want to be your VIP power partner. So if I meet a wholesaler, I'll get on the phone with them and I'll vet them. I highly encourage people to vet the wholesalers you're working with because they're great at running numbers and the desktop analysis. They don't know how to rehab properties, so their numbers can be a little off. So I'll get on a call with the wholesaler and I'll vet them just as much as they're vetting me. How many dispositions do you guys do a month? Do you guys do double closes, or do you guys just assign properties? What areas do you work in? I try to ask them as many questions as I can. I try to build as much rapport with them as I can. And then I'll always end with, hey, well, thank you so much for this conversation. I'd love to be your VIP power partner because I can close. So if you can please, if something comes across my buy box that fits, just call me directly. Don't send me an email, call me directly, and we'll start the diligence process immediately. And more often than not, that has worked. And we're able to find our key wholesalers that have good properties, that are able to run their numbers, and they'll do exactly that. They'll send us an email and a text message and say, hey, check your inbox right now because I just sent you a solid property that fits your buy box. You have, an hour or two before we blast this to the rest of our list. So really that phrase, I'd like to be your VIP power partner, has been pretty impactful for us.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Welcome.
And I know I've heard people say to be careful with wholesalers because sometimes what's it called when there's like multiple involved? Is it chain? It's like a chain or a train.
When they wholesale from a wholesaler, are you
Yeah.
talking about? Yeah, the funny story around that. The only property that we wholesaled like a few years ago, we had like the email came back around to us and someone tacked on 80 grand on our property. And now we didn't even know who this person was. They literally took it somehow made it to like 2 or 3 other people. And we got another email saying, oh yeah, wholesale property it was 80 grand above. I could not even believe it. So yes, I see what you're saying. So you got to be careful with those things and do some due diligence there. Daisy chaining,
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Tito. By the way, I think there's a question in the chat. Just, I don't know if you get to those now or later.
Yeah. Let's see it. Did I miss it?
Telephone game, Alex, yep. It's from Angie G. Hi, Angie.
Hi, Angie.
Hopefully she's still on.
That's one of our friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can answer it now. Let's see where.
Yeah, she asked, how does the new law regarding real estate commissions affect your deals and approach? Really great question. I'll give my thoughts and then if you want to add to it. So we're actually going through a situation right now because we're listing another property for sale next week. And the NAR settlement, all of the rules took effect July 1st. So what they're basically saying is you cannot publicly list a buyer's agent's commission, and the buyer's agent needs to sign a contract with the buyer prior to doing any work together. So what happened is our listing broker said, whenever you go to list a property, let's just say we offer 2% commission to the buyer and we market it in other ways. Well, what if the buyer has a contract with the buyer's agent at 2.5%? What's going to happen is the buyer agent is going to pick up the phone, call our listing agent and say, hey, does your seller offer concessions? And what they're going to say is, can you offer that other 0.5%? Because I don't want to pay that buyer's fee out of pocket. Are you willing to pay that 0.5%? If not, I might not come look at your house. So there are implications when it comes to setting up our commissions and what we're willing to concede on that front. So it does affect us, and it doesn't really change much if we're already offering those commissions, but the buyers, I believe, are going to start demanding for them to be able to pretty much build it into the offer price and finance the commission for the buyer. Hopefully that makes sense, but there are some implications for us as the investors.
Yeah, and right now it's a buyer's market, so buyers agents and buyers have the leverage. So it's interesting to see what happens when it's going to move to a more balanced market or even a seller's market, if those same concessions are going to be offered. But the way I look at it is it just takes a little bit more communication on the agent's parts to make sure that the buyer's agent is still going to get paid.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So that's so crazy. So you can't list it, but they can reach out to you and basically say, okay, you guys have to pay or they're not going to look at the house.
Yeah, you can have it on the MLS, but you could put it on Instagram
Okay.
or your flyers or tell them over text or phone. So
Yeah.
they just need to make sure they find a way to get that buyer's agent paid. And then Alex asked the question, so if I'm interested in buying a house, am I better off getting my own real estate license just to not sign the buyer's agreement? Honestly, Alex, like, number one, getting a real estate license is not something you can do overnight and it's super easy. There's cost and time involved, so that's up to you. Secondly is you're now going to be governed by a licensing board, so you have to decide if that's important for you. The last thing and one of the most common misconceptions is you don't need an agent to buy a house, but of course, if you're not in real estate and you need someone to represent you who understands it, should get an agent to represent you.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what do you do if you go to if someone goes to an open house and they want to look at the house, but now that they're saying you need someone to represent you? How do you get around that? Would you just say, "Oh, I'm not going to have someone represent me," or?
No one is required to use an agent when buying or selling a house.
Okay.
It's not legally required. It's only recommended, of course, if you don't understand real estate and need someone to properly represent you. But we'll never require it. It's always recommended, especially when you're making larger purchases.
Okay, so then you don't even have to sign that buyer's agent agreement at all.
If you're doing work with that buyer's agent, if they're going to show you even a single house, you need to have a contract in place per the most recent NAR settlement rules. You need to make sure that buyer's agent, because what was happening is a lot of buyers were just shopping around for months with buyer's agents, and then they would ditch them or they wouldn't get paid. So they're just making sure that everything gets signed, and I'm sure it's an exclusivity, right, where you're only going to be working with them for that time, and it's to protect both sides, of course.
I see. Okay, so if someone doesn't want to use a real estate agent but they want to go look at a house, can they?
Yeah, I mean, anyone can show up to any open house at any time.
If the house is open, if it's an open house, definitely. If you want to book like an actual appointment and have access to like the Supra or the lockbox or whatever, that's when
Correct.
You need to be a licensed realtor in order to do that. But if the house is open, anybody can go take a look.
I see. Okay. Perfect. And then could you guys quickly walk us through, it's like really in detail, an example of one of your SOPs that you use or one of your systems that you have in place, just to kind of, because I know we've talked about a lot on topics today. If you could just walk us through each step of how that works and like what that looks like on your side, I think that'd be helpful.
Do you want to go over a template?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and this is actually something that we offer in our real estate investor systems workshop, which we'll touch on at the end, but we offer a template for an SOP, and the main highlights is what's the name of that template, or that SOP. So for example, finding comparable sales, it could be one of them, and it's a very specific, unique task. Then it's who owns that SOP. I own it. I'm the lead. I'm the acquisitions lead, so I own it. When was it last revised? I last revised it in August of 23, right? And then it says what's a brief description. This is how you find sales comparables for a fix and flip property in Los Angeles. So a little more description, and then you get into the process. And we're talking about a lot of detail here because you want to assume that whoever reads it has no idea what you're talking about, has never done it before. So it's literally as detailed as open Zillow.com and you link Zillow, filter by blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to give your criteria. So for example, search by single family home, no more than 1/2 mile away, plus or minus 20% of the square footage of your subject property. You have to be extremely detailed so that you are leaving that person with no additional questions, and you have an exact repeatable process. So detail is very important If it's here, it doesn't exist, because you want to make sure someone can reference something offline, or when you're on a beach somewhere with your phone off, like they know exactly what process to follow. So getting as detailed as possible is going to be safer than being a little bit more, high level or broad. I don't know how much more detail you wanted, but hopefully that was helpful.
No. Oh, that was great. And have you guys ever considered like doing QR codes where they scan it and then they watch a video of you explain it, or do you guys prefer it to be written out in text?
Well, within our SOP directory, we include a link to the Loom video. So more often than not, we'll also record a Loom video in addition to that SOP. So our VA or acquisitions manager or whatever hire we're working with has more than one source to pull that information from. Whether they're a visual learner and they need to go step by step, or whether they're able to actually read something and then digest it fully.
Got it. So the purpose of doing it both ways is because people learn differently, and you just want to make sure you have something to read and also something to watch.
Yeah, exactly. And even within our SOPs, we'll include screenshots that have arrows to like log in here or use this here or something like that. Because again, we just want to minimize the amount of questions that the individual has.
Okay. That makes sense. And how much time do you guys typically spend on this per week?
It really depends on, like, recently, since my short-term rental SOPs are pretty robust and they're pretty built out, I don't spend too much time on those. We just started a new co-hosting business where I'm co-hosting other people's properties. So right now I'm spending a lot of time building out the co-hosting SOPs. And that could be anywhere from like a time block of like 2 hours twice a week right now is what I'm doing for the co-hosting business. And then I try to stick to that cadence as much as possible until I have a pretty good directory and feel comfortable with that.
Once you lay the foundation and you have your main SOPs in place, what's cool is he has our VA. We empower our VA to change or update them if they find something needs to be refined. So, hey, like, did you find there's an error, or did you find there's a way to improve this process? Update the SOP. So you give ownership to your hires so that they can refine those processes for you and continue to improve them. These are working, living documents that are never going to be like finalized and stamped, because things change, your strategy changes, the market changes.
Software's change.
You want it to be a dynamic process always.
Yeah. Absolutely. That makes sense. And I guess oh my gosh, I just had a brain fart.
All good.
I was going to ask you a question and then blank.
Yeah, we were talking about about how much time we're spending on systems, right?
Yes.
SOPs, what that looks like.
And what I was going to ask though too is that when you give it to when you're changing your SOPs, like, is there anything unique that you guys do that other people aren't, that you find help you be more efficient, or is it just being consistent and continuously updating them?
Right. When we update an SOP, for example?
I guess one thing that's a little different is with my co-hosting business right now. That's a new business, so I'm creating those SOPs right now to lay the foundation, like she said. But our short-term rental business, that business is already existing, so I don't have to create a new SOP for that. I can just record a single video and tell my VA, hey, make an SOP off of this. And she knows exactly what to do at that point. She knows to copy and paste the transcription, put it in ChatGPT, use the template, put it in the directory, right? So as far as like what we're doing differently than other investors, I really don't think we're doing anything terribly different. There's obviously multiple ways to do it here. We've just found what works best for us and the team that we have.
Yeah, I think one unique thing about our business, and this is what we teach our students at the workshop, is we've created a systems blueprint, which is multiple different tabs, which I haven't seen any other investor do this, or maybe they do, but they don't share it. But we created this blueprint, which outlines all of these interdependent systems, like departments, your master in there, and then your marketing campaigns. So all of these live in this blueprint, and then you take this blueprint and you use that to talk to your CRM and tell your CRM what pipelines to create and what emails to send out and automate, and on what cadence. So this is something that we built out specifically for our students, well, within our business, and now sharing with our students, that I think is pretty unique to us.
Yeah,
I
that's
haven't
a good
seen
one.
it.
That's
I
a good
haven't
one.
seen it with anyone so far.
It kind of lays the foundation of the SOP and the process from there on out, so that people can open up a spreadsheet and then visualize it before you actually put it into play in your CRM or whatever software you're using.
Wow, that's incredible. And
Yeah.
very efficient.
Yeah,
we try.
she came up with that. I remember when she showed me, she's like, dude, look at this. I'm like, what? And I come downstairs and I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. Like, great job.
People who know me personally know that I love Excel. I'm a weirdo. So there are some pretty cool functions in there that we like to use. Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, since we've touched on your workshop a little bit, can you expand a little bit more on what you guys are offering and where people can continue to learn from you?
Yeah. We started hosting workshops because especially after Invested, where we spoke on stage, and after talking to a lot of people, they really loved our ability to systematize our business, and everyone was asking us, like, can you teach me, how do we do this, can you help me, because if you don't help me, I'm not going to go spend time to do it. So we hosted our first REI Systems workshop in July, and we filled the room. And it's a full day where we pretty much taught our students how to organize their departments, set up their CRM. We talked about setting up acquisitions process, design and launching a couple of marketing campaigns, automating your marketing campaigns,
building your email list,
building your list in the room, just a lot of the fundamental things you need to like systematize your business. And then we had 4 accountability calls after that on a weekly basis to make sure that people were getting the support that they need. We started a Facebook community, and we just launched our next one.
Yeah, so it's going to be taking place September 21st in Marina Del Rey, California. It's which is right next to LAX, by the way. It's from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we like to say we're putting the work in workshop, because it's not something where you're just going to go and get a bunch of motivation and be like, oh, wow, this is great. Like, we're going to hold your hand through some of these uncomfortable processes, because when you have to go back and think, like, how have I been doing this? Is there a better way to do it? Like, maybe I haven't been doing it the most efficiently. Yeah. There may be some frustrations that come up with that. So we like to hold everyone's hands the whole way through and make sure that everyone's getting set up properly.
Yeah, some people say that we kick their butt in the room in the best way possible, because it just opens your eyes to how much more efficient you could be. And if you're more efficient, how many more deals could you be doing? That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're not efficient, you're losing time, and losing time is losing deals. So
exactly, you get it.
Well said, very well said.
And I love that. I know Alex went to your workshop, and we were an accountability group every week, so we talked about it, and she was just going on and on about it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah, Alex crushed it in that workshop. We're seeing her, like, her marketing go out. It's really cool to see.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like people underestimate like how helpful it is to have someone there to kind of like hold your hand through it, because it can get very, I feel like, overwhelming, because that's a pretty big process. I mean, it's a business, right? You're building a business, and that can be, I feel like, very overwhelming to people who are wearing all the hats. And I feel like your guys' workshop is it's perfect for someone to go out, do what they need to do, have you guys, and then have you for accountability to it afterwards. I mean, those phone calls is such a great idea too, because I feel like there's a lot of workshops out there where you just go and then, okay, well, now I have questions. What do I do now? But you guys are like, no, we're going to be there. We're going to hold you accountable.
Yeah, and it's so important to hold people accountable. The one of the premises of the workshop is to think and act like a CEO. And there's different levels of being a business owner. There's a technician, a manager, and an entrepreneur level. And a lot of us stay stuck in technician work, and we don't actually evolve or graduate to being true entrepreneurs or CEOs within our business, meaning everything still falls on us. And so our goal with the business is to build a business that can operate without us. Like, even though we like doing these things, it's not what, like, if I had my ideal day, like, I wouldn't be building out co-hosting systems in my CRM. Like, that's just not part of my ideal day. So we want to help people think and be true entrepreneurs within their business.
And Angie asked, are there any disadvantages with disclosing your processes to others? Like, for example, giving your tools to potential competitors to your business. So a couple things. One is we're not recreating the wheel. Other than this blueprint that we're talking about, it's nothing that is like so, brand new to the industry. Secondly, I'm almost willing to bet that if we gave our entire set of systems to 10 people, maybe one will actually go do it. Because people a lot of times say they're going to do something and they don't. Even if you gave them all the answers, you gave it on a silver platter, 9 out of 10 people are not going to do it. They're not going to take action. They won't do that, take that bet on themselves. So we don't really see that as a threat. And additionally, like, what did you say? Like, we operate, that analogy you used.
Yeah, losers are competing at the bottom while winners are collaborating at the top. And I truly believe that competition is good. Like, I want to talk to as many of my competitors as possible to see what ideas we can share, because rising tides raise all ships. So if you're with other high performers and other high level individuals, you're only going to perform better and higher. And real estate is a huge pie. We have an abundance mindset. So we know there's enough deals to go around for everyone. There's enough money to go around for everyone. So I'd rather collaborate with other high level people than exclude them and see them as my competition and not build those relationships.
We want to see people win because there were our mentors that have helped us along the way, and we just want to pay it forward as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Very well said. That was amazing. Thank you guys so much for sharing. And I guess, there's people are going to be walking away with so much, but if there's one thing that someone was to walk away with, what would you want it to be?
Consistency. That's literally all it takes. You just have to be consistent. It's going to be boring. It's going to be uncomfortable. There are going to be things you don't want to do. But if you're consistent with what you do, you will see results.
I would say the one thing is, if you really want to make this a true business, treat it like one and start creating those systems, or, find ways to learn from others on how to do it efficiently, right? Because real estate investing is really hard. And if you want to scale it without losing your mind, because you could, you got to start creating those systems and putting people in place, so that you're scaling without losing, that valuable time with, your family, or doing the things that you love to do.
Absolutely. I love that. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for coming on with me. If anybody wants to continue to learn from you, which absolutely they should reach out to you. You can find them at _Amanda Fornelli _ and David J. Fornelli on Instagram. And just to reiterate, they are having a workshop at the end of September 21st, in Marina Del Rey, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So make sure to reach out for that. There are limited seats. Am I right?
Yes, we are. Okay. Are limiting the seats to make sure that it's a productive room. So just reach out, DM us the word SOP if you want to learn more about the systems workshop, and we can send you the link. Also, Miranda, keep us accountable. We promised we'd share the intake sheet, so let us know so we can share it with your audience.
Yes, absolutely. And that was the Realtor Script. Is that correct? Yes.
Correct.
And what do you guys feel like would be the best way? Should they comment a word or just message you guys?
Yeah, why don't you comment the word script, DM the word script to us, and we'll make sure we get it over to you.
Perfect. You guys are so awesome. Thank you so much. You just have literally dropped so much valuable information, actionable information too, which is just incredible. So thank you guys so much again for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us,
It's our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
And hopefully we'll see you on the 21st.
Yes.
All right.
Bye,
See you soon.
Have a great day.